Sometimes we let team members avoid accountability. Sometimes team members avoid accountability because we dislike confrontation. Now, a lack of individual accountability is bad all around for the entire organisation. It's bad for specific team members who likely know they aren't performing well, because without that encouragement and the push to improve, they may feel ignored, they may feel discouraged, they may feel devalued, which may lead them to quit. Morning Dwayne, morning Jose over there in New Zealand. It also sends an unspoken message that poor standards in your organisation are accepted. The team end up resenting that low-performing team member and even their manager to a certain degree, as they now have to make up for that team member's deficiencies. And finally, if you don't address the problem team member and the issues, the team will probably perceive favouritism. That, of course, is demotivating for everyone. Welcome to JTintheRaw show 184, and today, 5 tips to improve accountability in the workplace, in your department, in your team, wherever you are. 5 tips to improve accountability. Good morning, KPM. Thank you for all your help this week. Morning, Matty Gordon. How are you? Welcome to JTintheRaw. This is a show I do every single week, same time every week, where I chew the thin on business and business issues. Morning, JB Hayes. And this week's topic of improving accountability in the workplace has been inspired by three conversations that I've had with business owners about holding their team accountable. Holding them accountable, not for anything other than just their job, just doing what they're supposed to do. So I thought I'll do some research, see what I can find. So today, 5 tips to improve accountability. As we go through with them, if you like them, hit me up with a love heart. You know the love heart little symbol. Hit me up with that as we go through. And at the end, I'll give them all again to you, and I'll ask, which one do you think you need to improve? So join the conversation, have some fun. Morning, Dan Owers. Morning, Brad over there in Canada. Have some fun, join the conversation. Let me know as you go through what resonates for you. Okay, number 1. You have to have the difficult conversation. As a leader in your business, as a leader of your team, as a leader of the department, you have lots of responsibilities. We know that. And one responsibility is to have those difficult conversations with those team members. Now, those difficult conversations don't have to be confrontational. They don't have to be accusatory, that's a word I think, I'm not sure if I said that right, or aggressive. In fact, I always struggle with accusatory or aggressive. Just focus on performance. Focus on the performance, not the person. Tommy Hart, g'day mate, over there in New Zealand. Now, while I admit we should never make assumptions, I do think that we should sometimes assume that your team member genuinely wants to do a good job and they aren't being difficult or not meeting the performance standards on purpose. Throughout your conversation, that difficult conversation, simply for you, seek to understand why certain actions were taken on those tasks, why they were performed. Always start with that really specific example. So, John, I noticed that XYZ happened. What's your perspective and what went wrong here? You see, we need to be aware that there are some common reasons for inadequate performance. Some things beyond our control. Good evening, Alan Leach over there in Ireland. Good to have you on board this morning, mate, or this evening. So some of those things could be, quite simply, the manager, you or somebody else, didn't give clear instructions. The instructions were not clear enough. Perhaps extra training is needed, i.e. what we're thinking is that they don't have the skills to do the job that we need. Perhaps there's a technical issue beyond our control that we're unaware of. There might be a personal issue seeping into the workplace, and there could be conflicting priorities. You need to take the bull by the horns and have that difficult conversation. It is your responsibility as the leader. Number 2, address that poor performance as soon as possible. Deal with that team member on a one-on-one basis as quickly as you possibly can. In reality, nothing is likely to change unless you, as the leader, confront the issue, unless you confront the problem. Sweeping it under the carpet or ignoring it, even worse, doesn't help the business, doesn't help the team or the individual. It simply festers. It simply festers. And for me, as a leader, I was always worried that my frustration would pent up and I'd get to a breaking point where I would explode as a leader. So the more the poor performance occurred and continued, it grated me as a leader, and the closer I came to exploding, like a volcano. So the key would have been is to rip that Band-Aid off, address the performance as fast as possible. So if you're dealing with a truly bad employee, don't therefore, when you're having this conversation, just rely on the verbal communication. If the performance is poor, don't rely on just having a verbal conversation. Write down what the new level of performance is expected. Write down some goals, perhaps some instructions that you both need to follow in order to remain accountable. As a manager, you're going to be forced to think through what is really needed by you in order to improve the performance of your team. And the employee, therefore, whoa, hang on a minute. Oh, it's gone dark. I don't know why the lights are off. How funny was that? The lights went off on me. Hey, Michelle Bowden, how are you? Good morning. I went dark for a moment there. So, what we don't want is when we have to have that conversation up front, when we have to have that challenging conversation, what we don't want is the team to say at the end of it, or that team member to say, look, I don't know, I don't understand. So we have to make it super clear. Super clear. Okay, number 3, consider your team members' feelings. When you're having one of these accountability conversations, your emotional intelligence is going to be tested. It is going to be uber tested. Many team members simply don't understand the impact of their behaviour on the business, on you, and on fellow team members. So it's your job as the leader of the business to be kind, to ask questions, to understand and establish a mutual way forward. So for example, let's think about this one. And I think this happens a lot in lots of different businesses, particularly this example. Jasmine or Dave, a mother or a father that works in the organisation, shows up late to work 30 minutes every Friday, every day of the week even, but they show up late for work. After talking with them, you learn that the reason why they are running late is that they've got to drop their child off at school before they get to work. They've got to drop their kid off. Now, in their previous position or before the role was changed, potentially what happened was starting at 8:30 wasn't a problem, but we've now moved them forward to 8 o'clock. Now we have a problem. But no one asked Jasmine or Dave if that was possible, if they could get there by 8 o'clock. So we need to consider the employee, we need to consider their feelings and also their circumstances. So just remember that you're in a conversation with that person, so focus on the team member's self-esteem by showing concern for them, not just as a team member, but as an individual. An individual to help the company's needs. So that's number 3. Consider your team members' feelings. Number 4, Be super clear of what is expected. Now, I see this in businesses across the globe and across different categories. And that is, we change what is expected. There's constant change, and that's not really fair on the team member. But let's imagine we're pretty clear on that. So now we're sitting down having this accountability conversation with them. Morning, Scott Robbo. So in the throngs of the chaos of underperformance, we've got to slow that conversation down, slow that process down, and get really clear on what the new outcomes are, what our new expectations are, what the new performance standards are. Now, it may seem at the time like a real pain in the ass to simply stop. But stop, write down procedures, goals, and policies. However, your team now need to know what is now expected to perform well and how to stay motivated. The goal of this simply must leave nothing to the team member's imagination. You can't leave anything up to them to be thinking. Clear communication between you and them, clear communication is critical for the success of that team member moving forward. Number 5, follow through and follow up. I would suggest this is the greatest weakness for most leaders in any department, team, or business. It's the follow through and the follow up. After every conversation, write down what was said. You write down what was said. Even email yourself and that team member. So that way the problem is documented, but it also, the solution is documented. You both agreed on those future expectations. You both agreed on those performance standards moving forward. So it further clarifies what those expectations are and what conversation occurred. Then the forgotten step after our follow through is that follow up, the forgotten step. So it doesn't have to be time consuming. It could be, and it doesn't have to be onerous either. It could be just a conversation on the run. It could be a formal sit down and chat. It could be sitting out and having a cup of coffee at the local cafe with that team member. But your job as the leader is to follow up and follow through to make sure they're doing okay. Most of all, in that follow through, praise them when you find them doing those things right. Because nothing will encourage better work practices than focusing on the positives. That becomes your role as the leader, is to improve performance. So we've said this is poor, now we need to praise when they've done good. Ladies and gentlemen, they are the 5, Luke Scott, good morning, they are the 5, Reese, g'day, ways to improve performance standards in your workplace, to improve accountability. What do you need to work on? One more time for everybody. Have the difficult conversation. Address the poor performance as soon as possible. Consider your employees' feelings. Be clear of what is now expected and follow through and follow up. Which of those 5 do you need to work on? In the comments below, tell me, share, commit to what you need to improve. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned into JTintheRaw show 184. Just had a workout with a bunch of clients that we're going to be working with today in the New South Wales Personal Trainers and Fitness Studios Roundtable. Looking forward to catching up with all of them very shortly, so I'm still sweating after the workout we just had. And today's show was all about improving accountability. Working in a team environment today meant that we were accountable to each other to achieve the workout. So it's just like being in business. Oh my gosh, it's happened again. I've gone in the dark. Ladies and gentlemen, I am in the dark, but I'm still talking to you. Wait for it. Yeah, back on. Those lights are back on. How's that? We're back. Thanks, Jamie, for sharing that great book. The 1 Minute Manager, of course, is a great book, and we're giving feedback. All right, last thing to finish with today. After that accountability, by the way, if you know anybody that could get benefit from the show, please tag them in the comments below or hit the share button and share it. Tag people in the comments or share. And we finish every single week with quote of the week. Quote of the week is this: generally, no one intentionally performs poorly. Your job as the leader is find the reason, coach, guide, inspire, support, and get them back on track if you want to keep them. Let me say that again. Quote of the week. Generally, no one intentionally performs poorly. Your job as the leader is find the reason, coach, guide, inspire, support, and get them back on track if you want to keep them. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned into JTintheRaw, show 184. Any value? Hit the share button or tag people in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the flip side.